So I've never stood on a stage where I could choose where to sit or in doubt of if I would still be standing here. So I start with standing, talking to you, and then maybe if I get tired, I join you sitting down. I'm Martin. Let's see if this, I think this is better. You can still hear me, right? It's the big beard talking. Um, Yeah, I'm here to talk about the renaissance of the mascots into virtual brand ambassadors. And before I start off with my presentation, I'd like to tell you a bit about what I used to do, because after this talk, after this conversation, there will be a talk about the future of art. And actually, I'm not really from the city of Rotterdam. I was born and raised in Haarlem and came to the city of Rotterdam to study the arts. So I was taught to be an artist, and this is actually one of the objects I graduated with in the year 2000. And I came to realize not so long ago that ever since I've been busy with thinking about how people represent themselves on the internet. How, if the whole world is your stage, how people are making decisions on what they look like online. And in this case, it was an exhibition of all these screenshots I took from webcams, and I was fascinated by the fact that if the whole world is your stage, that you choose to just show your dick or your lonely face or a piece of art. And now it's actually still very interesting in how people choose or what people choose to represent themselves, if it's an avatar or as a influencer. So skip forward to 2018. I came across this girl, or woman, young woman. Does any of you know who this is? I see a few hands in doubt. It's Lil Miquela. Lil Miquela is in the West by far the best known virtual influencer. She's not a virtual influencer with the highest reach or the most followers, but she's best known in the West. And I was fascinated by the fact that a virtual personality could have so much reach, and I saw it as an awesome example of the future of storytelling. How cool would it be if we can create stories in the real world with virtual characters like we've done for years with Pixar or Star Wars or stuff like that. So when Lil Miquela got introduced, that was in 2016, and nobody knew if she was real or not. So there was kind of a controversy around her, and you couldn't find a lot about her makers online, because her makers were called an agency called Brut, and the only thing they didn't have a website. They had a Google Doc with some information, but not a lot, and so there was a big mystery. And the whole idea of creating a character like this stuck with me. So at the end of 2019, Postillion Hotels came to my company. I run a creative agency in Rotterdam called Rossisi, and they asked us, can you help us with the promotion or the opening of this big hotel we're going to open up in the city center of Rotterdam? And we're like, yeah, we could do that. It's a business hotel. We do a lot of business-to-business marketing, governmental marketing, not so much business to consumer. But if you open up a hotel, you can't go around influencers. And influencer marketing was not really our thing. But we were like, this would be a cool moment to see if we can actually create a virtual character like Lil Miquela. And we were able to convince the hotel chain. For your information, the hotel has 168 rooms. So it's not really big, doesn't have a lot of amenities, so no own swimming pool or restaurants. So if you stay there, you really have to depend upon what the city gives you. And well, if you stay in a hotel, most of the time you're not really known with that city. So it would be nice to have somebody or something that would show you around and tell you where to have the best lunch, where to have the best breakfast or the best dinner or drinks. So we came up with Esther Olofsson, and Esther Olofsson became the first virtual influencer in the Netherlands. Does any of you follow Esther or known Esther before? I see one hand. Thank you. Esther Olofsson, young girl created on the business buyer persona of Postilion Hotels, 29 years old. Actually, she has been 29 years old for over 3 years now. So that's a cool thing. She never gets old. I always also give this presentation in America, so I had to censor her body a bit. But we had Postilion Hotels as a launching customer. She is built up on an existing Instagram profile, which back then in 2019 seemed like a good idea. We had a real-life influencer as one of our advisors, and she had this influencer account which she didn't use anymore, but it has been quiet over 3 years, and we were like, well, this is really cool because now we can build upon this account with 54,000 followers and just extract all the personal info, personal comments and tags, and start building the story of Esther. Later on, we came to notice that that wasn't really a good idea. With the knowledge we have now, it really bit us in the ass because we got a lot of media attention with Esther, and the reach on her old account is not what you might expect from an account with over 40,000 followers. So here are 3 examples of posts we did with Esther. Actually, this image on the left is the first images where we showed her face. And the technique we used with creating these images was we had to, of course, we needed locations. We had to take a picture of a real life model with borrowed clothes and a stylist, and then we took about 3 or 4 pictures on different locations a day, and then we took this all to our studio, did some After Effects, and then in the end we had generated content like this, which is kind of awesome, but also very time consuming. So we weren't able to post every day or every other day, and that would have been cool if we were able to do so. The picture in the middle is a picture of Esther Olofsson and Jenny from the Block, which is a real life influencer together with her dog. And for us, this was an experiment on how would the people who followed Jenny from the Block react towards her in a picture with a virtual character. And actually, our findings were very positive. We were expecting a lot more controversy, but people were really liking the whole idea of storytelling. And we work a lot with the University of Rotterdam, or the University of Applied Sciences in Rotterdam. And together we found out that people don't mind following something that's not real, as long as you don't lie about it and as long as the story is good. So storytelling is key in this matter. And the last picture is a picture of the campaign we did for Postilion Hotels, where she was enjoying a cup of tea in her bed in Postilion Hotels. Then in June 2022, we were like, yeah, well, this takes up a lot of time. It's a very time-consuming process. Can we speed up this process of content making? And we created a complete 3D model of Esther Olofsson. And luckily the Giphies work. So this is Esther dancing in my office. And as you can see, she doesn't look as fashionable as she used to look, because we would always borrow the clothing of these high-end fashion brands of local shops in Rotterdam. But for 3D models, if you go online and look for 3D clothing, you get these, well, clothing designed for sim characters or games. And so we came to another challenge, that we had to design our own clothes, because we couldn't give Esther all of a sudden a bad case in bad sense for clothing. So the pictures in the middle and to the right are made by my creatives, and they actually designed these clothing themselves, which is again very time consuming. So we learned a lot, but we were still not there where we wanted to be. So then in December 2022, I don't know if you remember, it's not that long ago, but that was actually the month that everybody who was talking about the metaverse got surpassed on the right by people talking about generative AI. And we came across this tool called Stable Diffusion. Who doesn't know what Stable Diffusion is? This is an exercise to raise your hands, because I'm sure that a lot of people don't know what Stable Diffusion is. You guys know Midjourney, DALL-E, both image creating tools with AI. Stable Diffusion is kind of Midjourney on steroids. And the cool thing about Stable Diffusion is that you can install it locally, and you can actually learn Stable Diffusion on, in this case, how Esther Olofsson looks like, or what Esther Olofsson looks like. And the progress of Esther Olofsson or Stable Diffusion goes really fast. If you see the image to the left, that was Stable Diffusion interpretation of a woman in August 2022. The picture in the middle, which looks like a bit of an 80s airbrush kind of image, was a picture of a woman in October 2022, and the picture on the right, December 2022. So in less than half a year time, they were able to go from this punk style drawing to this photorealistic image. And we were like, okay, this is cool. If we can learn Stable Diffusion on how Esther Olofsson looks like, then we can actually make progress and speed the content making. So we made 25 images of Esther Olofsson, all different expressions, and we learned Stable Diffusion with what Esther Olofsson looked like. And you get this. The way these applications work is that it's not like photography that is with one click created, but it's actually a dream of something it wants to generate. For example, if you ask Stable Diffusion for a picture of Times Square, New York, you get something which looks like Times Square, New York, but actually, if you look closer, it's not Times Square, New York. It's like a dream of Times Square, New York. The same counts for Esther Olofsson. It looks like Esther Olofsson, but it's not Esther Olofsson, because with creating Esther Olofsson, we put this little flaws in her mimic. She has two colored eyes, and we notice now that this generative AI has a lot of trouble with learning. She has two colored eyes. She has this mole against her nose. Well, as you see here, there's no mole there. So these small irregularities are not picked up by Stable Diffusion yet, but they might be picked up next week because it goes really fast. So now we can create images like this. We launched this new version of Esther Olofsson in winter 2022, and we also created a new Instagram account for her, because the old Instagram account had a lot of followers, but the algorithm was broken. And this new, we were really wondering if we start something all over again, if the algorithm would be more in our favor. So we had the idea to have Esther traveling around the globe. Bit of a rewind. I realized that I forgot to tell you about the background of Esther Olofsson, because if you create a virtual character, you have to think about her background story, about her character, about how she looks. Well, the background of Esther is quite complex. She has an Israeli mom and a Swedish dad, who met each other in Copenhagen, in Denmark. And they fell in love, got this beautiful child called Esther, but then her dad left her and her mom and went all the way to Australia. So there's a hook in the story for well, maybe in the future or the near future, Esther will meet her dad again. Her mom has an architecture agency in Malmö, Sweden, called Mor, not completely coincidentally also meaning mother in Swedish. And at this architecture agency, she meets Tom. And Tom is a young architect from Rotterdam. They fall deeply in love. She moves together with Tom to Rotterdam. And there she lives for about 3 years, and Tom cheats on her with his ex-girlfriend Maud, and she's all alone, and that's the reason why she starts to explore this city and trying to find all these cool local bars and restaurants and shops in the city. So when we started this new account, we first wanted to have her travel into her history. So the first city she's going to visit was Copenhagen. It's Lille Havefrø. It's the Little Mermaid in Copenhagen. But like I explained before, Stable Diffusion can't create a real image of an existing place. It can only create a dream of an existing place. So what we did was collecting all these royalty-free images of this location where we wanted to have Esther travel to. And so we did with this one, and we use a technique called in-painting. You can actually select in Stable Diffusion certain areas, and then it generates the AI into that area. And with one click, we can create Esther Olofsson at the place of this old guy with the glasses. And now we're even able to create images like this. So photorealism is really getting a thing. And here she does have these freckles and, well, you can't see here, but two-color eyes aren't a big problem anymore as well. And we can take it to all these new kind of levels. The only limit is our own imagination. We can have Esther Olofsson as a cartoon character, or maybe she can travel to Israel and find her a mosaic of her grandmother, or maybe she can even play a game in or a role in Game of Thrones. So if it comes to storytelling, we got a whole world to explore, and she is now traveling around the globe, connecting with all these different cultures and visiting tech conferences like this. And what we do now, I see my clock is really into red, but then again I started a bit late, so I'm taking the chance to stretch the time a bit. Just grab this hook and get me off stage, because I'm not finished with my story yet. What we do now is to connect all these different AI software solutions and make it into one. So now we're also able to make video with Esther, which was a big wish for us. I had a Swedish girl recording 20 sentences in English. And with these 20 sentences, we use a tool called 11 Labs, and we created Esther Olofsson's voice, actually with a Swedish, very soft Swedish accent. And we use another tool called HeyGen, where we can animate lip sync images of Esther Olofsson. This is actually a cool thing. Where we're at now is that we've connected Esther Olofsson via Zapier. Zapier is a tool where you can connect all these different software programs with an RSS feed from virtualhumans.org. And virtualhumans.org is a website where you can find everything about virtual characters, virtual humans, virtual influencers, etc., etc. And I got this interview with a writer from virtualhumans.org, I think about 2-3 months ago, and I didn't hear anything back. So we connected Esther via Zapier with the RSS feed of this website, took this RSS feed through ChatGPT, connected it with LinkedIn. So now Esther, as soon as this website posts anything online about virtual influencers or virtual humans, Esther posts an image or a link on LinkedIn without us interfering. So you see this text with the emoticons, with the hashtags, it's all generated by ChatGPT. And Esther posts this on her LinkedIn page without us having a hand in that, which is kind of weird because I learned from following Esther Olofsson that this article, which was actually about me and her, was already online. I didn't know. I learned from Esther. And so why do we spend so much time in creating Esther, apart from that it's really fun and that it has my creators on the edge of what's possible in the communication technology? I also believe that we live in a world where technology is becoming more and more personal and actually has a lack of personality and therefore doesn't work that well as it could have worked. And I took a step back and I noticed that in the 50s and the 60s, when small businesses and family offices became these big multinationals, they had a bit of the same problem. They didn't have a face or an image to communicate with. And they started to create these brand mascots. I have a few examples here, but there's actually in the Netherlands better examples like Flipje van Tiel, who had his own comic book stories. I'm that old, sorry. And this has never been gone. It has been not used that much, but there are still big companies who use brand mascots for their marketing and communications. For example, Kentucky Fried Chicken gave Colonel Sanders een verjongingskuur. Ik weet even niet wat dat in het Engels is. And they had the young Colonel Sanders living the jet set life on Instagram for over 3 months. This little fella here in the middle is the brand ambassador for this very big insurance company in America. It's called the Geico Gecko. And the woman on the left is the spokesperson for Magalu, which is the biggest retail organization in Brazil. She has collected over all her channels, she has over 30 million followers. And she tests all these appliances which they sell at Magalu. So I was like, why don't we do this in the Netherlands? We have Billy from bol.com, but Billy only plays part in bol.com chatbot. We have Evie van Landschot from Van Landschot Bankiers, but Evie van Landschot, you can't follow her on Instagram, you can't follow her on LinkedIn. We don't know anything about her, but they do want to sell their banking via this image. So there's an opportunity to create a whole world around this brand and connect with this brand via these virtual characters. So we, for one of the biggest building companies in the Netherlands called Dura Vermeer, we created Lou the Builder. And Lou the Builder is obviously a robot. And he has a function, yes, 2 minutes. He has a function within this company. He's project manager, digitalization. So everything which has to do with digitalization within the company of Dura Vermeer is recorded with Lou the Builder. So, and the cool thing about Lou the Builder is that he can do all this stuff which real people can't do. So that's the learning. Don't have virtual creatures do stuff which people can do. No, nobody is as cool as people are, but you can have them do stuff we can't do. For instance, travel through time. So this is Lou the Builder working on the roundway of Harlem in the 60s. And of course, Lou the Builder also have to learn about certificates. So I'm rushing a bit to the end of my talk, and I lack a bit of technology since there aren't any videos in my presentation. But this is my almost last slide, and I hope that I could make you think about how can we work with all these new kinds of technology. How can we make them more personal? How can we humanize technology? And my idea is that virtual brand ambassadors might be a solution. Maybe not the solution, but definitely something to explore. And I have this awesome quote, which I asked actually to ChatGPT to give me a quote of C-3PO, which is also a robot. Of course, there's nothing above humanity, nothing about what humans can do, but there is a lot what we can do together with technology. And we're able to connect with technology. Anthropomorphism is a thing, and we should make much more use of this. That's my story. I ran out about half an hour, I think, but I hope I could inspire you.